Well, we made it through the worst preseason game. Now it'll be smooth sailing for the rest of the season, hopefully. What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Titans Rundown. I am your host, Mike McCamey, and in the last episode, obviously, we discussed preseason week 1, what happened there, what my favorite things were, the player of the game, offense, defense, special teams, all that good stuff. And in today's episode, we are going to be discussing week 2 of the preseason, where we played against the Seahawks, who are a pretty solid little team. They've got a lot of good pieces there. Mike McDonald, I think, is going to be a great head coach soon, and overall, just a pretty good team. And we joint practiced against them, which was something. First day, it was just kind of a tie. Second day, we got boat raced, but overall, good experience for us, and we ended up winning the game. So, all right. Let's get into today's episode. Before we get into preseason week 2 itself, though, we've got to talk about, first off, there were no starters in this game. No Will Levis, no Jeffrey Simmons, no defensive backs, no Gibbons, who I think still should be under Campbell, but that's just my opinion. No Kenneth Murray, just no starters in general. And not even the offensive line got in. So, overall, the backups played pretty good, but we're going to get into that as we talk about the game. So I just wanted to say that. And also, we got some injury updates right before I started recording this, actually. Chidobe Awuzie should be back soon from his calf strain. He's still questionable for week 1. And D-Hop is also almost back, and he should be ready for week 1, is what Callahan said. So in the best of both worlds, both of them are back by week 1. Because, golly, we're going to need it. Maybe, I think we need Cheeto more than we need D-Hop, though. In this game specifically. Overall, we need D-Hop more than we do Cheeto. But in this game, this specific game, we need all 3 cornerbacks playing at 100% against this really good Chicago Bears receiver core. That thing is loaded. But anyway, yeah, so those are the people that are going to be coming back soon, so we're happy to hear that. Cedric Gray still is continuing the rehab. We'll see if he's back by preseason week 3, and if he's not, God bless him. But anyway, let's move on to the actual game itself. So if y'all didn't see last week's episode, we do this on a number scale. I rank the coaching, the special teams, offense, defense, and then I give you the player of the game. Who did I think stood out and who played the best? And I'll tell you, this week, it was really tough. I honestly had a very difficult time discussing who that would be. So, anyway, let's first off talk about the coaching staff. I gave these guys a 9. And why I gave these guys a 9 was because, I felt like that it leaned on Brian Callahan mostly, just because of the fact that unlike last week where he made that really questionable call to go for it, 4th and 1 out of the shotgun instead of trying to QB sneak or try and run it up the middle or something like that in the I formation or just under center in general, we tried to get cute with it and run it from shotgun, which was not smart to me at least. But, again, I'm just an average Joe sitting here talking to y'all in a Hawaiian shirt. He's an NFL head coach. So, maybe he knew something better than I did on that play. But, to me at least, I felt like that he just made a bad decision there. But this week, I did not see any of those specific decisions. I didn't see anything that was just oh my gosh, what is this dude doing? And the team itself, there were a couple of undisciplined moments, but still pretty good overall. Denard Wilson continues to be solid. His schemes are getting pressure on the quarterback, so that's very nice to see. Just, nothing that was stand out amazing, oh my gosh, he made one of the best play calls I've ever seen, or oh my gosh, that may have been the worst play call I've ever seen. Nothing like that. All that I'm seeing is that they didn't do anything to throw away the game. They didn't do anything intensely, win us the game. But I guess that there is one person that helped us intensely win the game on the coaching staff, but he'll get mentioned very soon, as in right now, because we're heading in to special teams. as the second thing. I gave this an 8. It wasn't as just insane as last week was, and you're not going to see me go on any type of, legendary rant or anything like I did last week about how amazing special teams is. But still, the special teams, it was pretty good. It was pretty solid. Again, another situation where they didn't do anything to just throw away the game, and they returned their kicks pretty well. They didn't try and return every kick, and overall, they just played pretty dang solid. But there are two things that I've got to mention. First off, all right, whenever I said special teams wasn't that special, I mean that special teams as in like the kick return and kick defense itself wasn't anything too special, but Braden Narvison is the most popular man in Nashville right now. Like, I feel like everywhere that I go on Titans Twitter, like, I can't go a second without saying Braden Narvison should be our starting kicker. And honestly, I think there's a kicker controversy right now. Like, Brian Callahan said that Nick Folk's job is safe, but to me, it feels like that if Braden Narvison can make a 59-yard field goal, that's something that Nick Folk couldn't even dream of. He could barely even get it in. He could barely get it in with a 50-yard field goal, let alone a 59, almost 60-yard field goal. And I'm really upset about that because it got completely overshadowed by Brandon Aubrey making a 66-yard field goal. Shout out to him. He's the next generation's Justin Tucker, to me at least. But I just wanted to say that. But he also made a 45-yard walk-off, and he made a very easy chip shot. Like, I don't even need to talk about that. But, like, and he's younger. Like, if we were in, like, a Super Bowl window right now where it's like, we have, like, 3 more years where we could actually win a Super Bowl, then, yes, I would tell you, oh, yeah, we really have to keep Nick Folk. Just make sure that's consistent and solid. But, like, this is a period of time where you can take a chance on young players. This is a period of time where you can be like, maybe we could see if this works or not. Like, I want to see if this guy would work as a starting kicker. Maybe put, like, Nick Folk on, like, the practice squad or something. Or, heck, even just trade him away for, like, a 7th or a 6th or something like that. And if it ends up not working out and he's just bad, I couldn't name somebody off the top of my head, but I am sure that there is at least an okay kicker in free agency right now. Anyway, moving on. After that, we got to talk about the offense. I gave these guys a 7. And first off, let's talk about this. Address the elephant in the room. I know I said this during my last episode, that Malik was pretty solid. But in this episode, I got to take that back, man. Like, dude, I love Malik. He's a good guy. He's very mobile. He's fun to watch whenever he's on. But, like, my gosh, that first half was hard to watch at times for Malik. And I know that his little fan base's first instinct would be to say, oh, well, he didn't have the proper protection or his weapons weren't getting open. The typical excuses that you hear from a big fan of a quarterback that's just kind of, But in this situation, Malik had no excuse. Not saying that his protection wasn't that great, because it wasn't. But, like, he still had NWI in the game, and Mason Rudolph, with the exact same group of O-linemen, the exact same group of receivers, drove that team down the field and scored a touchdown with them. Like, I'm sorry. Like, that's just not good. And also the fact that you are on 4th and 3, and your coach doesn't want to go for it with you, that's just not a good sign. So, leading into that, though, I think Mason Rudolph solidified himself as the QB2 this game. Like, that first game, it was a little intriguing. Malik Willis made some really good throws. He ran very well. And, it made it intriguing for, like, 1 week. But now, I think that it's obvious Mason Rudolph is the second best quarterback on this roster. And Malik will flash again, and he's improved. Don't get me wrong, but he will not be the backup QB, at least for this year. Now, who knows? Maybe, just maybe, one day he could be the backup QB for us. But I just don't see that happening for a little bit. But Anyway, I also want to mention one more thing. I got to give a shout out to Jaquan Jackson, man. Like, dude, that man had a game. Like, I can't remember exactly what the stats were. I'll just put them up like right on the screen right now. But like, dude, he played really well. Like he was making big plays. He was decent on special teams. Like just overall, he played pretty solidly. And I was very happy to watch that. And I think he solidified himself as the 6th wide receiver. I think Mason Kinsey gets cut, and I think Kyle Phillips gets cut. As hard as that is to say, especially since, as you know, I've been a big Kyle Phillips fan for a very long time. But anyway, moving on, we have the defense. I also gave them a 7. They weren't as good as they were last week because the linebackers, they decreased a little bit. James Williams wasn't as great. Otis Reese wasn't as great. Chance Campbell was still pretty solid. And James Williams had some decent plays right at the end. But, like, overall, not really like the most insane thing. So, like, I gave them a 7. Defensive line was getting after it, doing pretty solid. And again, like I said, Chance Campbell, he wasn't as good as he was last week. It's very hard to top a game of that caliber. But, like, he still was pretty solid. Like, it wasn't like, it was just like, oh my gosh, this man's a 1-week wonder type of guy, Like, he played pretty decent, and I still think that he or potentially Otis Reese, I mean, after that performance, maybe we should steer clear of that, but, like, that makes me think that potentially we should let Chance Campbell at least get a chance to compete with Jack Gibbons. Like, I feel like Chance is just kind of buried right now, and I want to see him get that chance to potentially start over Jack Gibbons. But anyway, I can't control that, and whatever the coaching staff decides is probably best for the team. So, overall, 7 out of 10. Pretty good, not as good as last week. Then we come in to the grand finale, the player of the game. This was such a tough decision. I thought about Jaquan for like 2 seconds, but then I realized there were just 2 guys that I could just not deny. And if you had watched the game, you would know who those 2 guys are. But golly, I can't ignore how good Jalen Harrell was. That's my player of the game. And I tried to tell y'all before preseason week 1, that was the dude I was most excited to watch this week. I was excited to see Jalen Harrell do his thing, make a big play potentially, and just overall play pretty solidly. And he didn't just play decent, he played very great. 2 sacks, one of those was a strip sack, and just overall was just a menace to that offensive line. Like, dude, if he ends up being a 7th round steal, that would make this draft even better than it already is. Like, Jarvis Brownlee's already looking pretty good. Cedric Gray is there. No, I think Cedric Gray will end up being fine. He's just we got to develop him a little bit before he can, get into the games themselves. But anyway, Devondre Sweat is just an absolute mammoth of a human being that has been playing very well. Also has an electric personality. And no, that does not mean that he is some type of frat class clown of some sorts. That just means that he is a fun guy to be around. We don't need to read any further into that, like some people did. But anyway, then also J.C. Latham looks like he's going to be a beast at least eventually. Like right now he's still kind of developing, but he's been playing pretty solidly. Anyway, getting away from that draft class, Jalen Harrell again. Like, dude, I want to see this guy in the rotation during this year. And I want to see him develop because I think that he has something special. I think that we can develop him into potentially being... this is going to sound ridiculous. I think he could be starting caliber soon. Like, I don't think he'll be like that right off the bat or anything. But I think that he could be a decent, 6-sack starter or something, Like, I want to see that happen. But anyway, overall, I gave this game an 8. Mostly just because of the fact that, there were a couple of really big standouts. It wasn't as fun to watch because this is, like I said in the intro, this is the worst game of the preseason by far. And it's not even close. Preseason week 2, I think, is unanimously known as that because none of the starters are playing. Nobody's getting warmed up. It's just a bunch of backups slinging the rock around. Like, It's nothing too intense. So, anyway, man, week 3 against the Saints, that's going to be fun, dude. Like, we're going to try and get our revenge against the Saints, and we're going to try and hope that our starters end up looking really good, because even though I'm not the biggest fan of Dennis Allen as a head coach, he's a dang good defensive mind. And if Brian Callahan can march his team down the field against potentially their first-string defense, then I will be very happy about that. But anyway, that's the end of today's episode. I have Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all under the Titans Rundown if y'all want to go check that out. And of course, I am on YouTube for the people listening over podcasting. And I do want to mention this. Friday videos will come back soon. Once the season starts, I think I'll try and make a few more, maybe about like intriguing storylines from that week. But anyway, that's going to do it all for me. This has been a rundown of your Tennessee Titans. I love y'all, and Tighten up.